Hello everyone. Phoenix 61 here with your Legends update and news for the week. This is the last week for the freebie campaign, right? The last weekend actually even here. Depending on when you're listening to this or watching this. Right, so the Mini Gomo and the Nord, right? There was a free Admiralty backing this, past campaign that you could get Admiralty backing. You would choose one of the two ships as your reward, right? So that is done. That is going to be this, this past or this Sunday, right? Depending on when you're watching this, is going to be it for that free campaign. And then they will be going back to the 2,500 doubloons, which is about $10 to buy campaigns. And the campaigns, of course, go typically 5 or 6 weeks at a time. So we're going to go through. They've sent patch notes out yesterday. So I'm publishing this video on a Friday. And so we'll go into it here. Right there, they have there's their own introductory video to it. You can go to their page and watch that too. But I'm going to cover sort of the things that I think are more interesting anyway. So there's maintenance times depending on your platform, right? All that other fun stuff if you're interested in that. Here's the just high level. There is a code as usual, right? Bonus code, right? So you can go and grab. Normally they list it out here too, right? But yeah, go put this, blah, 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 right? If I remember, I'll put it in the description of the video as well with a link of, going to redeem code. But it's up, it's at the top of their webpage too. It says redeem code, right? And then you just sign in on your appropriate platform. But anyway, so new campaign, new cruisers for Spanish, right? So Spanish cruisers, so new countries being added here. There's a calendar event, and the calendar event is going to be a commander. No, not a Commander Geist, right? So this would be a little bit more valuable to actually play through this calendar event. Just something to keep in mind, right? Armada Española collection, right? So there's collection cards. I'm never too crazy about those. The ultimate reward is usually like a lower tier ship or whatever. Azure Lane's coming back. Golden Tides event, there's going to be some, I believe, premium ships as part of that you can get and or probably spend tons and tons of money, right? They don't show you the amount that everything's going to cost, right, until you get there. So I usually do an update video on Monday as well to dig into all of that stuff. But here is the campaign ship, right? It is going to be, looks like they've got the Commonwealth, stuff going, symbol up here, right? I believe, but looks like a cruiser, right? And so I don't know. I don't see anything too crazy off the bat here, right? Repair party, sonar or AA defense, and smoke generator. They don't always tell you like how long the smoke is or how many charges you get. So you kind of almost got to wait till you can check it out in the game. But this one, it does say a 4-week campaign to receive the Commonwealth Tier 8 Premium Cruiser Hector and other rewards, including Spanish cruiser crates. We will go into those, right? It's one of those early access things, right? And then starting September 8th, complete 80 milestones over 4 weeks with an Admiralty backing to unlock the ship, right? So if you miss a challenge, no worries. Catch-up feature allows you to, right? But basically, if you miss renown missions from 1 week to the next, they used to not always do this, right? The catch-up feature, if you missed some weeks, you were out of luck, right? But here's all the rewards that they list out, right, and then if you have Admiralty backing, which is 2,500 doubloons, the additional things that you will get, right? So they're just high level. You always get a little bit of doubloons back. So I guess you could argue as long as you play through the campaign, it's really only not quite costing you that much. We're at 2,500 minus the 750 that you get back, right? But anyway, so you'll get Hector, and you'll get the ship, and then so we'll go into what's actually new, right? There's always a campaign ship, right? But they're releasing Spanish cruisers. They're going to be early access, right? We've talked about this in previous updates. This is kind of their thing that they seem to be doing quite a bit more often now. Excuse me. But basically, the way it works is you'll get early access crates, and I'll show you those and what your chances are, right? But you're going to get some of them from the from the campaign too, right? So you can usually get some of that stuff from the campaign, and then maybe weekly missions, right? We'll see where all you can get them from. Sometimes they tell you, right? But anyway, so and then these look like unique skins that I think they showed like a clip of. You could look like you could spend doubloons in the store to get the skins for the ships, right? But they look cool. And if there's a chance to get them from a crate, I'll use it if I get it from a crate. But otherwise, yeah. It does say that the tier 1 and 2 will be available from the start just by playing. So then the tech tree, like the tier 3 and up, you could only get from early access crates. That's not a big deal if you don't get them, because then basically what happens is the next update, they go into normal access and you can play through them like normal. Here is the, is this the commander for this might be the commander for the calendar event, right? So I would recommend getting him because he's probably going to be tailored to those Spanish ships, right? So just keep that in. Oh no, this is the commander from the, so this is a different one. Okay. Check out Modest Inspired Skins. Get one of them for just one. There is a deal where you could get one for 1 doubloon using a special coupon that's obtainable via the library mission. Okay, so you could get one of the cool skins. I'm assuming one of these for basically free-ish, right? Because your 1 doubloon is not much, right? But make sure you play through the calendar event. They do say that you're going to get 3 free unlocks, right? So basically, they're really easy tasks to complete every day of the update for the first 3 weeks, and then it unlocks a reward, and then you're probably going to get chests and other stuff too as well. And then if you miss 3 days, it'll let you unlock them for free. Otherwise, it was like in the past, it's been like 250 doubloons, so like a couple bucks, right? Like, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, 3-week calendar event for the commander. Keep that in mind. And then the collections, right? I'm never too like, these are kind of nice. These are, if you're a history, if you're interested in the history and lore or whatever you want to call it, right? These are kind of fun. They can be kind of fun, but they're not like crazy important. It did look like as you complete them, right, you'd be able to get a couple of crates, couple of rewards. But the ultimate, this is what they do when you collect all of the cards. It's a lower tier premium ship, right? So if you gotta have it all, right, you gotta do this and get the tier 2, premium cruiser. But yeah, with these crates, you're guaranteed to complete the collection for free. So it looks like just from playing the game and campaign and whatnot, you could get all of the crates. And then this is pretty big too. Azur Lane is coming back, and it says all waves. Azur Lane collaboration comes back, all waves. So all 6 waves of Azur Lane, big booby anime chicks, are going to be back in the game. So if you see your favorite content creators out there showing off a particular commander, that's an Azur Lane one, right? You have your chance to get it. I don't know if they're specifying just yet whether you can buy them individually, right? That's typically my preference, is if I've got one that's a have to have, right, I would go in and spend just the doubloons to get that one commander, right? So, but lately, just for like entertainment purposes on my live streams, I have been buying like packages of crates and then opening them and either being really happy or really annoyed, right? It goes either way. But yeah, so if you've got, if you've been, they're taking away a little bit of FOMO here, right? Like if you missed out on one in past waves and everybody's saying it's the best one, now you can go and grab it. But I always maintain, like, there's nothing in this game that like is a must have that just gives you like super overpowered, right? Like, I'm like, you can rank up your free to play commanders and just be, as long as you're a little bit better at positioning and gameplay and strategy, right, you can beat out anybody that's got a fancy commander, right? And you always have to keep in mind too, the people that are buying all the commanders, they're probably not able to rank them all up that far anyway, so you might be getting higher level percentage increases of perks from your freebie commanders anyway. But anyway, that's a rant that you guys hear on repeat from me every time I make one of these videos, right? But Golden Tides looks like some sort of event, and there's 3. I think these are just Commander Geises, and like there are some ships too that'll come along with that, and I think that they're gonna drop from a crate or potentially buy them for probably too much doubloons. And then here's the code down here. Okay. That's the same one, right? I'm gonna scroll all the way up here, and yeah, 6 a.m. at the okay, yeah, yep, that is the same code. Yeah, so you'll get a fall big crate, some camos, some battle boosters, and a flag for entering in that code. Yeah, Fleet Cup Season 5 ranked battles. There's going to be three tiers of ranked battles. So here's the dates for those. Tier 5, 6, and 8s, it looks like. And then German Unity Day. It's an event there. If you're interested in that. Discounted German ships in the store. Some are available individually and in bundles. Blah, blah, blah. Modifications, update. All right, all right, here we're getting to a couple of things that are pretty interesting here that I got to call out. So, AA guns mod, right? So these are where you're spending, in your higher level ships that have like the fourth, like some of the like slots unlock where you can spend steel, right? Which you get from doing either ranked or as you complete the campaigns, right? If you're still playing after completing a campaign, you get a little bit of steel with each milestone level you hit, right? And then you can use that steel to buy epic mods. So you put them on your favorite ships, basically, is what most of us would do. They're adding an AA one, right, for anti-air. So increases AA damage output by 5% whenever you shoot down 5 airplanes. And they typically have that max out, right? And then at 25 planes down, it'll be 25%. But the challenge here with this that I think no one's bringing up just yet is as you play through the game, like if you've shot down 25 planes already, you've probably gotten bombed by some planes, which typically take out some of your anti-air mounts anyway. So my thoughts here would be like, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Okay, but like it's just something to keep in mind. You're probably losing some some anti-air guns, right? So if you look at your ship when you're playing, you'll see things that like turrets or even like even your secondaries and modules and AA mounts and stuff, they'll go black which basically means, and they'll look damaged if you look really close at them, which means they're not working anymore for the rest of the game. Those don't come back, right? So AA get mods 3 legendary. So when you rank it up to legendary, it'll increase the reload speed of your main battery. So that's kind of interesting, right? So you're putting an AA mod on, but you're getting main battery reload perks as a benefit as well. So I think it's kind of interesting thing. So increase the reload speed of your main battery, secondary battery, and AA guns by 3% per every 10 planes shot down. At 50 planes shot down, it'll max. So my guess is this is maxing out at 15%, right? So that's kind of interesting. So the reload build guys out there, right? You've got choices now, right? To use these modifications, you'll need steel. So we talked about that, right? Also made a few balance changes to existing mods. AA gun in mod 3, in addition to the existing effect on AA damage, the cooldown time of all ship consumables will be reduced by 10%, right? So it looks like if you're picking, we're going to have to take a peek at some of these things to really kind of understand what's really happening in the background here on these. But basically what I'm thinking it's saying is if you pick the AA mod in that slot, when you're building your mods for your, when you're picking your modules for your ships or your perks or whatever, now you'll also get a ship consumable reduction by 10%, right? So if you've got, if you're rocking something like fully packed on a cruiser where you've got a lot of consumables and tech or whatever, sonars or smokes or heals, this might be a good choice now at this point, right? So I think what they're trying to do is make people pick some of the things that nobody ever picks is what that's what I think is happening here, to kind of mix up builds and synergies there. So aiming system mod, right? Torpedo launcher traverse will no longer increase. We're moving this effect to main battery mod 2, where I think main battery mod 2 is right where you get faster, increased turret traverse. So basically, if you're picking that one, then you'd also get increased torpedo, right? So just switching it a little bit. Main battery mod 2, in addition to the existing effect, torpedo launchers will traverse speed rolling. Yeah, so that's what they're doing. Damage con, right mod, I don't think I ever put this on, right? I don't think I ever used this. So what they're doing is damage control party increased duration will increase by 20%, right? So I think it's another scenario where they notice it's not getting used a lot, and so they're trying to give it a little, right? There's some ships where it's just like, this is the ship this is how you build it. This is the commander you put on it. And these are the perks you pick for this commander. Right. And so I think I like what they're doing here. They're trying to get people to mix things up and think, right. So, and based on playstyle too, which is my preference too. So steering gear mod, rudder shift time will reduce by 25% instead of 20%. So, faster, right? They're making that better, right? Okay. Improved specs window. I legit had a list of things where I was like gonna make a video on it, and I was like, the World of Warships Legends needs these 5 things, that kind of BS. And this is exactly one of those things, because I hate that you can't tell, without going in and kind of trying to compare your ship to the PC version of the game's wiki, and then you don't really know how much they've changed it over on Legends, right? But specifically with accuracy, this is one of the things that I'm really glad to see. Shell grouping, my guess is, somebody put in the comments if you think I'm wrong here, but my guess is this number 2 here is what most people refer to as the Sigma, which is a combination of your shell grouping and shell dispersion. So it just says shell grouping here, but it looks like you'll be able to highlight these things and get more details on them, and get, it'll say over here, give you a little bit better description. And so then, so you've got very specific now, vertical dispersion, horizontal dispersion, max range, vertical dispersion, right? I do think we'll have to look at this when we get into it more, but things like, for example, Soviet battleships, right? The Russian battleships allegedly are more accurate at closer range, right? So, and if you're not kind of a veteran of the game, or not, really digging into details and watching other people play, I don't think you'd have any way of knowing that, right? So I'm hoping there's that type of detail in here too. But any more information is super, super helpful. This is helpful for new players, because new players you go out there and you're just playing, right? And you don't know why your accuracy is bad, right? Now you can actually look and go, change your commander, probably come in here and see how much better it actually gets. That is awesome. So I'm imagining they're doing something similar for every year. They've just got it on main battery, but more information all over the place. That is huge. I love that. That was one of the things on my list, specifically with accuracy, right? To know, because if I put on better shell grouping or better dispersion on my commander, I want to know how much that's actually affecting it. And if it's not affecting it a lot, I want to be able to pick a different perk, like that kind of thing. So balancing changes for some specific ships. I don't have formidable. I think that's the tier 7 aircraft carrier, right? And I kind of didn't really care about that, but I think people were a little bit underwhelmed by it. The people that did play it or did get it and played it. Agile and Richie Lou, I did get that ship from a crate, and I agree it needs some love, and so they're giving it some buffs here. Navarin, look, they're giving it a little bit more health. Repair party consumables been updated for it. They did reduce the duration on it, but increased how much it heals. So I kind of hate when they do some of that stuff that way, because then it's like, well, sometimes it feels like a wash, but anyways. And then Independium exchange. So it looked like if you had some leftover Independium, you would get some credits for it from, what was that? The last update. So I'm pretty sure I spent all my Independium. You're better off getting something, right? Like by using the Independium to buy whatever you can, instead of getting a credit exchange, but at least you get something, right? If you don't do that, fix some commander, right? So some tweaks and stuff here. And then there's another thing, right? I've got this ready for you. So Spanish cruisers are next. If you followed one of my videos in the past, couple months, they had a roadmap thing that they put out, and they had some things that were kind of hidden. They're like, this is, a new tech tree, a new line is coming. Well, here with this update, you're finding out that, and they released this earlier, right? I'm just finally getting to it because the actual patch notes are coming out. But they're like, okay, there's a new country coming, right? But they didn't tell you what it was. And then there was another new tech tree coming, and they didn't tell you what it was. There was some hints out there on Discord and their Facebook page and stuff like that. Where did the wings go, right? It's Japanese hybrid battleships, right? So if you read the description here, right, it sounds like it's going to be pretty similar to how the American hybrid battleships work, where you're going to have torpedo airstrikes, right? So if you're interested in reading through all this, go for it, right? And then one last thing that I wanted to call out, right? So they do have their video here, right? And so, but these are the Spanish cruisers, and I've got it muted here. But basically, they've got I forget what they call it, but like some sort of like multi-shot mechanic for these higher level cruisers, right? So this is what they're showing off here. But you can see you get this really quick reload, rapid fire, right? So basically a pulse fire. And I think they hinted that the higher level, right? Watch the reload down here in the bottom right. Right, it's whoops, yeah. Well, it was like 2 seconds for the first salvo, and then it went up to like a normal 20 seconds for that next one. So show it again here. Right, so it looks like there's gonna be some like burst fire mechanic available for the higher level Spanish cruisers, which is gonna be interesting to play around with, right? So that to me looks like fun. Now, granted, here this is quite the setup, because this is what a tier 5 cruiser. Watch this. He's shooting at a broadside British cruiser, so of course you're gonna just wreck him, right? Like, there's probably, you're right. He's got 3 Citadel hits, perfectly broadside, the perfect range and angle of that shot, right, to make it just like call it out there, right? But but yeah, so they do show like through all the rest of their stuff. Yeah, but that's what it's gonna be, right, for this update. That's gonna be our video for the day, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I try with at least a news type video like this with every update that comes out for the game. Like I said, typically they do 5 to 6 week campaigns, and it looks like this one's gonna be a short one at 4 weeks. But I know they've typically got the reason for that is probably because there's a Halloween update coming for October, right? So that's probably why they've got a short one this time around, and there'll be a ton of stuff for the Halloween update. So if you're subscribed to this, right, we'll dive into that when that information becomes available. Oh, and then actually let's do I'm going to show that so there are, oh no, I don't want this, containers. Let's show the containers, right? Because I normally go through this on my Monday update video, but they've got them posted already, right? So, but we'll go through them again, because on Monday, right? I'll try and remember to put a video out on Monday when all of this stuff is actually out, and we can go through it and see how much things cost. That's my favorite thing to do, is complain about how expensive the game can be, right? But here's the Azur Lane crates, right? So it looks like an Ultimate 3, which I think is new, right? Which would mean what they're doing is they're putting all the Azur Lane stuff from the past into this one crate and giving you chances. Now, I always say this, right? Look at this top stuff here. What is it? 10, 20, 30, 40, 57% is this chunk of stuff right here. So every one of these Azur Lane Ultimate 3 crates that you get, there's a 57% chance you're not going to get any Azur Lane stuff. And I bet you even down at the bottom, there's even some more. Another 10, so 67, right? This is almost, another 10 here, right? So, like, what a, like, 75% chance or something obnoxious that you're not going to get an Azur Lane thing. You're going to get Insignias, Commendations, Promotion Orders, and Global XP, credits, Days of Premium Account. Like, not to say that any of those things are bad, but yeah, so 10% chance for any of the already existing Azur Lane commanders, right? So there's a good chunk of them out there. At least I think that's all of them, right? They said all 6 waves or whatever it was. 10% chance for skins, right? These are just ship skins. They're just cosmetics. And then 6% chance for a ship is actually pretty good, because I know some of these in here, some people probably paid a pretty penny for when they first were coming out. And now you've got a 6% chance to get them, potentially free of charge, right? If you get them from a crate that dropped for free for you from like the campaign or missions or something, right? So, but yeah, so Azur Lane stuff's coming back. There's going to be containers for it. We'll look at cost and stuff when it comes out, when it rolls out on Monday. The collections crates, right? So you're guaranteed when you get a collections crate to get one of the collections cards. And these are the ones I was saying, right? That, if you do get all of them, you got to go into collections and flip them over and unlock them or whatever. You'll get a tier 2 ship. And it did look like there was some Spanish cruiser crates in the rewards there as well. So look at these. These are the early access crates, right? So the tier 4, 5, 6, right? These are your percent chance of getting tier 3, 4, or 5, right? So it's pretty small from each crate. And then it's very small for the tier 6s and above, less than 1%, right? For those. And so most of the time what you're getting here again is boosters and XP and all that other stuff, right? But don't sweat it if you don't get the ships out of these crates, because by the next updates, they'll release to full access and you can just play through the tech trees like you normally would, right? Spanish big crate is just a little bit better chances for the ships to drop for you, right? So I don't know why they just give people more of the other crate centers. I don't understand why there's got to be two, but there is some guaranteed reward system for this too. So if you do spend lots of money, you'll eventually get all of them. But it's just not worth it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You'll get the next update they'll unlock, and you just play the game. You can play all the ships. The Sunduku, right? I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Sunduku, right? I'm sure I'm saying this wrong. These look like the event crates, so not linked to the Spanish cruisers. And there's those 3 Commander Geises, right? Where were those at? Here, these guys, right? So it's for this event here, Golden Tides. So that's what those crates are for. And they have a 11% chance to drop a Geist. And then there's some ships too. I think these were cruisers and battleships. And then Sharky, if I'm saying that right, that was it looked like an all-around destroyer, right? So legendary tier destroyer. So just that's something to keep in mind there. That's what it's going to be, right? So all right, I've already been talking too long. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and watching. Like I said, I'll try and remember to do a video on Monday with my thoughts and feelings on the update and prices and what's available right away and all that other fun stuff. And we'll take a deeper dive at the ships. So please make sure you're subscribed. I also try to do Legends videos on the daily, right? Pretty much every day. And so if you are following me, we will see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks again for hanging out. See you next time, guys.